Alright, hello, hello. See if I can't get some of this ready to shade, and I'll kind of walk through my process as I'm doing it. So my handpiece is all clean, the engraver's sharp, music's a little quiet, that way you can hear me talking over it. So I'm all warmed up, just finished doing all this. So we're going to start with, do this guy here. So we're going to start off with doing a little fold over here, so I'm going to start just off of this inside leaf line, and I'm going to run to almost the middle and keep my graver tipped this way because I'm going to build a leaf here that's higher. So stop a little short. We're going to build another leaf right in here. Again, keep the graver tipped towards the leaf. And we'll come off of here and build the other half of the leaf. You see how we have our stem, and a leaf, another lobe, and then this right here in front. So I'm going to build the pipe here and give this a little bit of detail. And then the center of this leaf. Making sure that my trajectory ends up following the backbone. And then after I finish this leaf, we'll come back here and tie it all together into this scroll. So let's do our piping here. And we need to, the trajectory for this piping, for this split, needs to be halfway between here and here. So if we were to follow this piping all the way down, it'll curve around to here. See it? Because this line comes all the way around and ties into here. So to make my shading easier, whenever I come back and do the final shading, we're going to split this lobe in half. So space between here and here puts my graver right about there, and then we're going to follow this line, well, actually the center of this line and this line. So halfway. And center and center. So whenever I come back and do my final shading, all I'm going to have to do is just follow this line and run parallel, parallel, parallel. Same thing here, just keep running parallel until I run out of space. So now up here I'm going to do a fold over on each side, and my fold overs on these leaves are just simple S cuts. They're going to start just off of this pipe and then come to the center point. And my graver is going to be tipped this way because the fold over is going to be higher than the rest of the leaf. So then as we get to the end, I'm going to let the graver climb out of the cut and straight up. Okay, let's do the same thing over here. Now we're going to kind of add an external pipe to this. And tie it right into the edge of the leaf. See how that kind of creates that little low spot right there? We'll do the same thing on this side. See? Alright, now we'll set up for our final shading. So we're going to take the center point in between these two, right about here. We're going to start just a little low. And our trajectory is going to be the center of this leaf, right there at that little line. And then we're going to run up here to the point. So, now we're going to do the same thing, but backwards. We'll run our trajectory, we'll run from right below there, and then follow the trajectory halfway between here and here. If we were to connect them, they would actually fall right behind this leaf. It's not perfect, but we're zoomed way in. Once you zoom out, I mean, that line isn't even the thickness of my fingernail. So graver feels kind of weird. Yeah, it's got a little chip on the end. Let me touch that up real quick. I love working in stainless, but one of the downsides to working in stainless is you can get these tiny little chips on your graver, and then there's nothing that you can do besides just resharpen it. And it doesn't take but a second to resharpen. The little chip is gone. Alright. Nice pretty heels. Alright, let's get back to work. Let's see if I can get through the scroll here before I lose everybody's attention. Alright, so the way that I design my scrolls, excuse me, is right here where this splits apart. That's the halfway point between here and here. You know, so no matter where you look, it's always going to be the halfway point. That's because it allows me to come back in here do that little center line. So let's detail all this. So now we're going to come up our split. Like I said, we're going to follow parallel to here. Now this is where it can get tricky because we're going to come from here and then we're going to tie right into this line because this leaf is actually growing out from behind all of this. So it's and it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, that's a leaf. And then come from here. Tie right into that line again. See how we have this leaf growing out from behind here now? Okay, now I'm going to come here. But the trajectory here isn't quite right, so. So this is actually kind of a new evolution of the style that I've been doing for a long time. Now, and usually I would using these foldovers, but all these foldovers here, that's just something that I started doing. I'm still playing around with my line trajectories. I think I've got it almost where I'm really, really happy with it. But about 90%. So let's keep going. So the piping coming off of here, again, we're going to be parallel to here. If we can't be parallel to here, we need to stay halfway between the backbone and here the whole way. So you see how I'm parallel, that this line is parallel to this one, not this one, because this is actually a fold over. Same thing here, this is all a fold over. So let's do our fold overs up here. Again, just S curves. Right through the center. To the center. So now we go the center between these two, but we're going to do this a little bit different because this leaf actually goes like this. Okay, we're not necessarily going to follow this trajectory, we're going to follow this trajectory even though we can't see it. So start here in the middle. And then do the rearward side. Again, staying halfway between here and the backbone line. See how it gives the hint that this comes up underneath and then flips up. Do the external piping. And then sometimes I'll add another little pair of cuts in there like I did. So here's where I did another single cut coming off the tip. That just gives the impression that this fold over rolls behind there. Here's where I did both of them. That kind of gives the, kind of makes it feel like the whole thing is wrapping around itself, and then, you know, kind of curling up like a leaf on, like a dying leaf, I guess. Alright, so let's do this line. We're getting to the fun part. Do this line. I'm going to do this fold over here, but most of it's hidden. It's, instead of wrapping around the backbone, it's all going to be inside this one leaf. So we're going to start coming off of here, and we're going to come to about the middle point. And make sure that your graver's tipped this way, because this is higher than this. Now we're going to come right off of this split, and just one little lobe, just a little C-cut. And then add our piping. And the piping runs parallel to here. Then split these two halfway between here and here, which is going to be here. And then we're going to run parallel to here. So now whenever I come back and do all my final shading, I'll just run parallel lines all across here, and then that leaf is done. Okay. So let's do a little bit of a line work on the backbone. So we're going to split this distance and run it back. That kind of gives just a little bit of something to the backbone to break up all the whiteness. Maintain your distance from the backbone line. You don't really want that to vary much. Any more than just a little bit is too much. Same thing here, but see how we've got this flat spot here? Now we're going to make that flat spot disappear. This is a little trick that I learned from Sam Alfano a long time ago. So we're going to maintain this distance. And try and make this line as absolutely perfect as possible, even if we do come a little bit close. That makes it look like this flat spot here isn't actually flat, but it makes it look like it's tucked up underneath the edge of that border. Because your eye is going to follow this backbone here because of how it stands out against nothing. And then here, it's going to transition into following this because that's the best curve for your eye to follow, if that makes sense. It's an optical illusion that I really like to use because, well, I'm human, you know, I make mistakes. I can't always do a perfect line, so. But this has come in handy a lot when you get a little flat up against the outside border. Build another line inside of it that's straight. Alright, so let's go to doing our finial. So this whole thing is shaped like a canoe. Okay, you have to, it's almost like a taco. Okay, and what we're seeing here is one outside edge of the taco. Okay, and then this right here is the other side of the taco, and then this here is underneath. So let's build the rim of the back side of the taco. Then this will all be dark. It'll all be shaded. That'll give the illusion that the whole thing is shaped like a big U. Okay? So now we're going to turn this into a leaf, and then we'll detail the finial. So to turn this into a leaf, we come from our middle point here, and we're going to tie right into this edge, but I'm going to keep my graver tipped this way because I want this to appear higher than this space here. See how the graver's tilted? Right into the edge. Okay? Now we're going to do the center line of this leaf, so we're going to take the halfway point between here and here, which is about here, and then we're going to follow this trajectory. If you follow this trajectory, because we're so much wider up here, eventually you're going to run into the backbone. And just let it run into the backbone. Wherever it hits is wherever it hits. Okay? Let's do our finial now. The finial, so we're going to start from... I'll break it up into 3 parts. We're going to start right at the center, and then we're going to come back to this point, but we're going to tangent to the backbone. So, see? Now you could stop right there, and you could just shade this by following this line and staying parallel, following this side and staying parallel, but I like to take it a few steps further. Now come in and take the halfway point between here and here, which is right there, and then I'm going to run to about the halfway point of this S curve. Okay. Then I'm going to round off this corner a little bit. And then just like we did before with all these other lines, I'm going to take this line, leave a little bit of white space, and then I'll run back to where we meet back there, and do a center line on this lobe, and it'll tie into the same place. Now, we come straight across from here, and that'll give you where your last lobe goes. We're going to come about 2/3 of the way out, and we're going to come, imagine a line that goes from this center through here and then ties into there. So we're going to come from here, it's not perfect, but you know, like I said, we're zoomed way in, so we get out and that'll look good. This also gives you an opportunity to clean up your edges where they meet the background. So now we'll take this, continue back. We're going to take this little bit, then we're going to do a little C cut. It's a little wonky. Yeah, it'll be okay. Let's shade it. Alright, now like I said, let's come back and let's do this. So, I kind of imagine this line. Right from there, do another one right next to it. Yeah, remember most of these don't have to be perfect, but they have to be traveling the right direction. So we do need to get one that follows here, that ties those in. So now whenever we get a little bit of ink in there, most of that's going to disappear, but you'll just see these little white specks sticking through so that you'll be able to see where that whole scroll is supposed to be coming from. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do this next one, but I'm not going to talk through it. I'm just going to go through it, try to follow along. Remember the line of growth right here. It's an easy place to get confused. So we got to make sure that we get enough lines in here going this direction that it's obvious the direction it's growing from. Center. So another thing I like to put in is when I have two scrolls growing off of each other. The leaf from this scroll is not elephant ears. It's the same as this leaf, but this lobe is hovering over the next scroll. This. The elephant ears, they have their place. Yeah. if I have a spot that I really want to draw attention to, I'll use the elephant ears because you can make it large and ornate and just really demand attention to that area. You get some good blues going, and sometimes, I'll cut to the rhythm of the music. Just kind of get lost. You could do an S cut here. There's just a little something extra. Because I wanna draw attention to these leaves that are out here on the edge. And in my mind, S cuts grab more attention than a simple C cut does. Center to center. If your lines don't quite match up, sometimes you can come back and recut them and roll your graver just ever so slightly to make them, to vary your line width a little bit so that it looks like they line up. It's kind of cheating, but at the same time it's not. Space is almost too small for a fold over, but stay parallel to that leaf line. Make sure that you're parallel to here. Let's do the underside of the taco, or the inside of the taco. Come off of this line. Center. Following the leaf line. And wherever it hits the backbone is where it hits the backbone. Alright. Finial. Center. Flip the corner off. Finish this back. Two more leaves to do here. So we got this one here. That connects way down here underneath all of this. So our center line here. So center those two. So you want to add a little bit of interest when you're building leaves along a large outside space, kind of using your leaves to create the frame around something else. Don't be afraid to start them off in nothing. Sometimes that little bit of white space would be just the interest that you need. So following the pattern I've used everywhere else. That line might have got a little fat. Let's grab center. Following the trajectory of the leaf line. Yeah, some of my lines are a little wiggly today. And remember, we're under almost 20 times magnification. No. There we go. So this leaf section here is growing off of this scroll. But this scroll is growing off of this scroll, so I'm going to tie them together in this space right here. So I'll build the piping for this fold over. We're going to go right to the middle. The pipe is going to go right to the middle. So yeah, I'm set a little bit off to this side, but that's because when I come in and do the other half of the pipe, now the pipe's in the middle. Do the center line of that leaf. Now that section is ready for final shading. Okay, so let's go ahead and shade this next section too. So we're going to do this with a 105. So here's my graver. Just sharpened it. It's a little dirty because hairs on it. So if you look close, you'll notice my face and my heels are only sharpened up to 2000. So let me find my pointer. So you look, you see, still have the lines running through my heels, the grind lines. You can see them. You see them on this side running this way. So the heels are the only thing that actually ever touch the surface of the metal. Because I run my grind lines this way, the heel itself will polish my stainless as I make my cuts. That is why I can get nice sparkly cuts like I do. And they may look black in the video, but when you see these things in the daylight, they sparkle like a bright cut. And that is all because of the direction of my grind lines. Of course, the downside of that, as opposed to running your grind lines parallel to the graver, the downside is it makes a weaker graver, so you're more apt to chip it. Yeah, because each one of those grind lines acts like a weak spot. So the possibility of chipping your graver or breaking your tooth is much higher if you grind perpendicular to the graver itself. But that's the theory anyway. But let's go ahead and do the first step of the shading. You see this spot, all the outlines are done. All of my primary lines are done. So now we need to get ready to shade. We'll bring it to this point, like I did in the last video with this section. So let's just get to work. So I'll start here because I'm not completely warmed up yet, so I'll save this for a little bit later. We'll do a slightly different kind of leaf. See, this leaf is going to be shaded this direction. So we're going to do a piping on the outside that flows right into this. Okay. It kind of makes it look like half of the leaf is hidden back behind here. Center. And then follow the trajectory of the leaf line. So this is something that I've just started doing. So I'm still kind of unsure. I still have to go back and look at the way that I shade this in other sections, like here. So it's still something I'm playing with. What I do know is I'm building off of the scroll pattern that I've used for a while. So got this. I know that this maintains distance to the backbone. I know that this, okay, looked like my engraver was chipped already. I know that this rolls right into the seed, like so. And I know that this needs to stay halfway between that piping and the outside line. Yeah, that'll do. And then this. Yeah. Now let's take the center of this leaf and we'll connect it right there. So a keen eye will notice just how much my right hand doesn't move when I'm cutting. My right hand is held in one spot, and the only thing that moves is my turntable. My right hand will control the tilt of my graver and the height of my graver, and that's it. Unless I'm cutting a straight line and my hand is moving in a perfectly straight line, it is fixed in one spot and everything moves underneath it. Now I'll come back and clean that in just a second. You notice when I set up my cut, my thumb is way out here. I anchor my thumb, set my graver in place, and then I'll make my cut. My thumb is an anchor. This leaf lobe right here is where I break most of my gravers doing doing this pattern. And that's because I have a tendency to start moving my turntable before my graver gets a good bite. So it's actually, my graver is actually moving a little bit forward, but it's also moving sideways. I know the mechanics behind how it breaks and why it breaks. I'm still trying to get the body mechanics right so that I don't break it. See, it's just an S cut coming off of here, but I want to touch here and then connect here. So it's kind of, you gotta feel your way through. Tie it into the back of the leaf. Center and a little low. I know technically you'll just see that peeking out right there, and I'll finish that off whenever I do the final shading. Center. Anywhere that you measure across here, that line will be almost perfectly centered. Now we'll continue this line. Alright, so here's a new leaf that I can show. So this one has a fold over at the front. So creating our piping. Now we're going to continue this piping. We're going to slide right into that backbone. And then at the front, right here, and connect them. And then that'll give a little bit of piping up here. And now whenever I shade this, it's just shade lines that stay parallel to the backbone. It's just lots of little shade lines running this way, and then a couple little ones here, because this, here, and here are one leaf. Center, and follow the trajectory. So if you haven't noticed, this line here, the piping, I really don't care about it whenever I'm setting up the center line of the leaf, because this leaf, the shade lines for the leaf will actually run underneath the piping. Start up here. So we want to start from here, and we want to tie in back here. And the reason that I build my lines in the order that I build them is because each line builds off of the line that I've previously done. If you've noticed, this line follows the same trajectory as this line, and I try and maintain this distance here all the way up, and it's just slightly getting wider and wider and wider as I get up to the tip of the leaf. So where I place this line depends heavily on where I placed this line, which depends on where I placed this line back when I first set everything up. I hope that makes sense. I'll do a little S cut here. So that little leaf is doing this little whoop-de-doo wraparound thing. So piping. Move up a little bit. Center line. Let's do the center line on this one. Yeah, see? Progress. So do the piping on this. And we're trying to stay parallel, or stay halfway between here and here, following the trajectory of both of them. I guess parallel is not really the right word, but equidistant. So let's do a fold over here, the same one that I've been using all throughout this piece. We'll do this fold over. No, that one tried to run away from me. That's not a very good taper on that one. Try and taper it a little better this time. That's better. So, it'll be okay. It's the center of the leaf, so let's get a center line here. Trying to hurry without hurrying. It's 3:30 and I gotta be done getting this ready by 4 o'clock for so I can make it to Bible study tonight. So I'm trying to hurry through this without being in a hurry to get through this, if that makes any sense. There we go, that's better. That little flare cut right there, it kind of adds to the depth of this leaf. Kind of shows that this here and this leaf are at about the same height. Because they're wrapped up around each other and they're kind of surrounding this part of the leaf. Right. Let's go back and do this. Center. Let's start up here. So now we need to do a line that follows this trajectory and stops and comes to this trajectory but stops somewhere in the middle. This is just a little detail line. It's just enough so that there's not all this white space here to grab attention. Let's go ahead and do this leaf over here. I feel like the whole thing is tipped. So I have a flat base on my vise. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. But, so there's a flat base on my vise. So when I'm doing flat parts, I don't have to fight with the tilt. I just set it on on the turntable. And now my total vise weighs about 12 or 13 pounds, so it's a little on the light side, but it's just heavy enough that it holds everything nice and solid. It's light enough that I can push it around with one hand all day long. And I don't have to fight with the tilt. My tilt is locked in place. So let's see. There it is. Center on the O. Let's get this camera line back up. Yep, that'll do. And get a paintbrush for wiping away chips if you don't already have one. If you're using your thumb all the time, it's probably not a good idea. I don't think anything makes carbon steel rust faster than human blood. I'm not working in carbon steel, but and again, notice how much my right hand doesn't move. Anchor off of thumb. That's going to be an interesting little leaf whenever I finally get it shaded. So I'm going to do a fold over here. Start way back here. I'm walking away from the edge, leaned into the leaf shape. Anchor off the thumb. Anchor off of the thumb, but don't let the thumb ride while you're cutting. Kind of lift it up. Letting the thumb ride isn't as important on stainless, but anything softer, You run the risk of scratching it with your finger. If you're using a transfer, you run the risk of wiping your transfer off. If you're engraving on a sandblasted finish, like up here, even a slight burr that's stuck into your finger, and I don't know if anybody else is like that, but sometimes I get a metal splinter in my finger and I won't even notice it until the end of the day. But you can get a little metal splinter stuck in your finger and drag it across the surface and you've got a big mess to clean up. So just like before, here, here, center. And follow the trajectory. Yep. Occasionally you gotta zoom out, look at the whole thing. I mean, see what it looks like. Yeah, this leaf is a little large, but I had to make a choice between putting a slightly large leaf there and make it just obnoxious, or put another scroll in there, or totally change this whole space. And I chose to go a little bit obnoxious. Just, I think it's kind of cool. It fits in with the whole American theme. I mean, I guess we are kind of obnoxious to the rest of the world. Just in your face. Ah, look at me. Yeah. The edge of the taco. I do believe that line's a little heavy, but leave a little bit of white space. Alright, just like the same pattern that we've used on the rest of this piece. Center. Straighten that out a little bit more. It's kind of a tight little turn there. it up a little bit. There we go. That section is ready for final shading too. What's going on right there? Alright, I'm going to touch that up with a little bit of stippling. So my stippling tool, I don't know if anybody's ever seen this. This is a double-ended pin vise. It looks like something you'd make in prison, but it's a double-ended pin vise wrapped with athletic tape, so it's kind of grippy and comfortable. There's a piece of 1/16 carbide on one end that's sharpened to a point and then just gently flattened out. And the other end, I have an old 3/32 graver, or yeah, the 3/16 graver. Then the whole thing goes in the handpiece. So kind of looks like this. That makes a great stippling tool. Downside, if you run the stainless steel handle on the Lindsay, it makes it kind of top heavy. So if I'm doing a bunch of stippling, I'll take that stainless steel ball off the end and I'll replace it with the rubber cap, because that makes it really light. I do wish Steve would come out with a handpiece that is just shaped like a pen. That's, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches long, but you can hold it like a pencil comfortably and it'll fit underneath the microscope. Yeah, no ball at the end because I don't want to hold it like a graver. I want to hold it like a pencil. And just make a dedicated stippling handpiece. I know Andrew has one. And I've had his handpiece before, but the way that he has his QCs set up, uh, they keep falling out of the handpiece every time you tip it over to stipple, which is the same problem I have with just about any handpiece that has a QC. None of them are really held in place. It's just, that's why I had to go with the Lindsay with the fixed nose. And of course, I added some O-rings to it so that I can adjust the hit on the fly. And then some cat tongue tape at the back so that it grips my palm because of the way that I hold my graver. Because I hold my graver like this. So it's almost like I'm hand pushing, but I'm not pushing. Anyway, Anyway, it's going on 4 o'clock. I've got to get ready for church. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, let me know. Maybe we'll do this again tomorrow. Alright, you good?